Okay, today we're going to talk about asking and answering questions. So as good readers, when we're reading something, we're always asking questions as we go along. And when we ask these questions, we may have to continue reading or go back and reread a section to get the answers for them. So today we're going to be asking some questions and finding that answer by either reading forward or going back and rereading. Okay, so in our story, Dolores Herrera, Growing Up Strong, we are going to read the section, reread the section, because we've already read this for understanding, Good Citizens. And as we're reading, we're going to ask some questions, and we're going to highlight a question that we may have. So as I'm reading, I want you to think about some questions that can be answered by what we're reading. Dolores was born on April 10, 1930. She lived in a small town in New Mexico until she was 3 years old. Then she moved to California with her mother and 2 brothers. Dolores grew up watching her mother participate in community organizations. Her mother believed that all people deserved to be treated fairly. When Dolores was a young girl, her mother owned a hotel and a restaurant. Many farm workers who lived in their town were poor and hungry. They were paid very little for their hard work. Dolores's mother let them stay at her hotel and eat at her restaurant for free. This taught Dolores and her brothers that good citizens get involved in the community by helping their neighbors. So a question that I thought of, how did Dolores learn to be a good citizen? So in this story, what information can help us to answer that question? How did Dolores learn to be a good citizen? Well, let's go back into the section that we just read. So as I go back into this section, I'm going to go to the part down here at the bottom and reread Dolores's mother let them stay at her hotel and eat at her restaurant for free. So this was something that Dolores's mother did for the poor and the hungry men who lived and worked in the area. So they were paid very little for the work that they were doing, so they didn't have money to stay in the hotel and to eat at the restaurant. So Dolores's mother let them do it for free. So that taught her to be a good citizen, what her mother was doing. So I read that when Dolores was young, her mother let the farm workers eat and live for free at her hotel. Now I can answer that question. How did Dolores learn to be a good citizen? Dolores learned to be a good citizen by watching her mother. So going back into the story and reading what Dolores's mother did for those men helped me to answer the question about how Dolores learned to be a good citizen. She learned it by watching her mother. So now you're going to reread the section Dolores Goes to School. Once you've reread this section, I want you to think about a question that you can ask or that you asked along the way when you were reading this section, and where can you find that answer by going back and rereading this section. So you might think about a question like, how did Dolores try to help the children in her class? So you can come up with your own question that you can answer in this section, or you can use that question, the one right up here. How did Dolores try to help the children in her class? Dolores tried to help the children in her class by, and you can find that answer by rereading this section, Dolores Goes to School. What helps you to understand how Dolores tried to help the children in her class? Once you figure it out, you can highlight information if you need to, like we did in the last section, using the highlighter. Oops, sorry about that. Using the highlighter right here. And then when you're done, go ahead and use the type tool to type in your answer. Remember the restate, just like we did in the last section. Dolores tried to help the children in her class by, and then give me the answer using the highlighted information from the text.